Level 0, the equation. Nobody applies to work for Pablo Escobar's Medellín Cartel. There's no job listing, no interview, no onboarding packet with dental benefits and a company parking spot. The cartel recruits the way gravity recruits rainwater. It finds you at the lowest point and pulls you into a current you'll never swim out of. At its peak, this organization earned $70 million in revenue every 24 hours. More than McDonald's, more than Microsoft, more than most countries generate in gross domestic product. Fortune 500 companies have mission statements printed on lobby walls. The Medellín Cartel had one too. 6 syllables, 2 options. Plata o plomo, silver or lead. Accept the bribe or accept the consequence. This wasn't a threat, it was an economic model. Every transaction, every relationship, every life the cartel ever touched operated inside this binary. You were either useful and compensated, or problematic and subtracted. No third category, no appeals process. The equation applied equally to presidents and peasants, to judges and teenagers, to generals and grandmothers. And every rank you're about to live through exists somewhere on the spectrum between the silver and the lead. The worst part isn't choosing. The worst part is discovering, usually too late, that both options cost you everything, just on different timelines. Level 1, El Campanero. You're 13 years old in Comuna 13, the hillside slum that clings to the western edge of Medellín, like a wound the city pretends has healed. Houses stacked on top of each other in vertical chaos. No running water 3 days a week. Electricity that comes and goes like a rumor. Your mother sells empanadas from a cart on the corner of Calle 42. She wakes at 4 a.m. to prepare the dough. She stands in the sun for 9 hours. She makes 8,000 pesos on a good day. That's less than $3 American. That's the market value of a woman who hasn't missed a day of work in 6 years. Your father is either dead or might as well be. Nobody talks about him, and you've learned not to ask. A boy from your school changes everything. He's 15, brand new Nikes, a gold chain that catches the Medellín sun like a signal flare. 6 months ago, he wore the same torn uniform you're wearing now. He tells you he can get you work. Real money. All you have to do is stand on a corner and watch. If you see police, you whistle once. Military, twice. Anything else that doesn't belong, 3 times and run. You're a Campanero now, a bell ringer, a human surveillance system. You earn 50,000 pesos a day. Your mother makes that in a week selling empanadas in the sun. You are 13 years old, and you have just out-earned the woman who raised you by standing still and paying attention. That fact should devastate you. Instead, it motivates you. And that's the first sign that the equation has already started solving for your life. On your first day, a police patrol turns the corner 3 blocks away. You whistle once. 30 seconds later, the entire street below you transforms. Bags disappear into doorways. People scatter with the choreographed precision of a flock of birds changing direction. By the time the patrol reaches your block, it's just a normal neighborhood. Laundry drying on lines, old men playing dominoes. You standing on a roof looking like a kid with nothing better to do. Which is exactly what you are, except you're also the early warning system for a network that processes 200 kilos a week through this neighborhood alone. You do this for a year. You never miss a shift. You never false alarm. You learn the rhythm of law enforcement the way a fisherman learns tides. Patrol patterns, shift changes, the difference between a routine sweep and a targeted operation. The local jefe notices. He tells you the same thing every employer tells their best entry-level hire. You're reliable. I need you somewhere else. You feel pride when he says it. That pride is the most expensive thing you'll ever feel. Level 2, La Mula. You're 16. You're a mule now, not the animal, though the comparison is accurate. Mules carry loads they didn't choose along paths they didn't design to destinations they'll never own. Your job is to transport product from processing labs in the countryside to distribution points in Medellín. Sometimes you carry it in backpacks on public buses, sitting next to school children, your heart rate elevated. Sometimes it's in the false bottom of a delivery truck stacked with plantains. The driver plays Vallenato on the radio and watches the road like it owes him money. Once, they tape 2 kilos to your torso under a school uniform, because nobody stops a kid on his way to class. You walk through a military checkpoint with 4 million pesos strapped to your ribs. A soldier looks at you. He's maybe 19. He waves you through. Each kilo is worth 2 million pesos wholesale. You earn 200,000 per delivery. You do 3 runs a week. The math is simple and the math is a trap. You buy your mother a refrigerator, a real one. You fix the roof. You pay for your sister's school supplies. For the first time in your family's history, the end of the month doesn't feel like the edge of a cliff. And that's exactly how the cartel's human resources department operates. They don't chain you with threats. They chain you with refrigerators and school supplies and the look on your mother's face when the roof doesn't leak anymore. Golden handcuffs, except the gold is cocaine residue, and the handcuffs are very real. The genius is that you put them on yourself. Voluntarily, gratefully. One run goes wrong. A checkpoint on a road that's never had one. The driver panics, floors it. You hear distant cracks behind you. You're lying flat between crates of plantains, listening to your own heartbeat for 12 seconds that stretch into a lifetime. The truck makes it through. The driver is injured. He gets treated by a cartel doctor in a back room. No hospital. Hospitals mean paperwork. Paperwork means questions. Questions mean lead. That night, your mother made sancocho. Your sister shows you a drawing from school. A crayon house with a yellow sun. You sit in a kitchen with a working refrigerator and a roof that doesn't leak, and you understand with perfect clarity that you can never stop. The cartel didn't buy your loyalty. It bought your family's comfort and invoiced you for the rest of your life. Level 3, El Sicario. You're 19. A lieutenant visits your neighborhood. He needs sicarios, the cartel's most essential and most expendable employees. Essential because the equation requires enforcement. Expendable because there are 3,000 of you in Medellín alone, and the city produces replacements faster than the organization consumes them. Training happens at a finca outside the city. 3 weeks. Former military contractors teach you to move through a crowd without creating a memory. To approach and leave a location so cleanly that witnesses disagree on whether anyone was there at all. To operate from the back of a Yamaha DT 175. Light, fast, anonymous in a city where every third motorcycle looks identical. They teach you about timing, not the philosophical kind, the operational kind. The difference between 2 seconds early and 2 seconds late. Corporate training programs end with a certificate. Yours ends with a name on a folded piece of paper. Your first assignment, a local politician who rejected the cartel's generous campaign contribution. Silver was offered. Silver was declined. The equation solves itself. A motorcycle. Avenida El Poblado. 3 seconds. 2, 1. The motorcycle is 3 blocks away before anyone fully processes what happened. You're paid 5 million pesos. That's less than the cartel spends on gasoline in a single day. That's your market value. Remember that number. It becomes important later. Over the next 2 years, you complete 15 assignments. Politicians, journalists, rival traffickers, officers who chose the wrong side of plata o plomo. You develop a reputation for being clean and fast. The organization calls you professional. But efficiency at this level is its own kind of obsolescence. There are 3,000 sicarios in Medellín. You're a replaceable component in a machine that treats human life, including yours, as an operating expense. Level 4, El Traqueto. You're 24. You've survived longer than most sicarios. Someone decides your talents are wasted on the street. You're a Traqueto now. You manage a processing lab hidden in the jungle near Puerto Triunfo. Coca paste arrives from Peru and Bolivia on small planes that land on strips cut into the jungle floor. Runways that exist for 72 hours, and then the forest swallows them as if the earth itself is complicit. Your team of 30 químicos processes the paste into the powder that funds everything from Pablo's private zoo, to his congressional campaign, to the 4,000 houses he built in Medellín's poorest neighborhoods. Charity and chemistry, funded by the same molecule. The lab produces 400 kilos per week. Each kilo costs 1.5 million pesos to manufacture. Sells wholesale for 5 million. Retail in Miami, the equivalent of 120 million pesos. An 8,000% markup from jungle to American consumer. You're running a production facility with better margins than Apple. Except your supply chain involves sulfuric acid. Your quality control involves a match test, and your employee termination policy is absolute. You learn that the real product isn't powder, it's infrastructure. The network of roads, bribes, landing strips, submarines, and human beings that moves product from a Colombian jungle to a glass table in Manhattan. If you had an MBA and a different zip code, McKinsey would hire you tomorrow. Instead, you're standing in a jungle at 3 a.m., watching a químico test purity, while mosquitoes the size of hummingbirds drain your blood. The tropics charge a consulting fee too. One night, the military raids a lab 12 kilometers from yours. Someone talked. You have 90 minutes to dismantle everything. You burn the lab. 2 months of product, gone. 1.6 billion pesos, smoke. The cartel doesn't punish you because no one was caught. But the loss is noted. A number written next to your name. Not a punishment, a data point. In this organization, dissatisfaction is expressed very quietly. And silence is just lead that hasn't introduced itself yet. You rebuild within a month. Production resumes. The machine doesn't pause. Level 5. El Capo de Plaza. You're 29. Plaza boss. You control distribution across an entire sector of Medellín. 200 people report to you. Campaneros, mulas, sicarios, dealers, drivers, accountants. You are middle management. Simultaneously powerful and completely disposable. Your territory generates 800 million pesos monthly. You keep 10%. That's 80 million a month. You buy a house in El Poblado. From your terrace, you can see the hillside of Comuna 13 where you grew up. You drive a Toyota Land Cruiser, not a Ferrari. Ferraris attract attention. Attention attracts the wrong kind of meeting. You've learned the most important lesson of narco-economics. Visible wealth is a target painted on your chest in neon. Your real problem isn't the police. Your district captain receives a monthly envelope containing more than his annual salary. He's been solved with arithmetic. Your real problem is the Cali cartel. They want your territory. They send messages, not letters. 2 of your dealers don't come home 1 week. Their corners go quiet. You respond in the same dialect. A Cali distribution point goes dark overnight. 3 of their people stop answering phones permanently. This war is fought on street corners by 19-year-olds on motorcycles who see the same future you saw 5 years ago. The difference is that now you're the one handing out the addresses. You've become the man in the black Mercedes. And the kids on the corners are the new you. Just as hungry, just as convinced they're climbing when they're really just being consumed. You tell yourself you're giving them opportunity. You tell yourself the same lie every manager in every exploitative system has told themselves since the invention of hierarchy. The lie works. It has to. Because the alternative is looking at the hillside where your mother still sells empanadas for 8,000 pesos a day and admitting that the distance between you and her isn't a success story. It's a crime scene. Level 6. El Lugarteniente. You're 33. Pablo Escobar knows your name. Not because you introduced yourself. Nobody introduces themselves to El Patron. You're introduced by your numbers the way a stock is introduced by its performance. He brings you into the inner circle. The first time you drive through the gates of Hacienda Nápoles, his 7,400-acre estate, you see a Piper PA-18 mounted on concrete pillars above the road. The actual plane that carried his first shipment. Most companies frame their founding documents. Pablo mounted his on a pedestal, visible from the highway. The estate has a private zoo. Hippos, elephants, giraffes, a bull ring, a go-kart track, 6 swimming pools, a private airstrip. Disneyland, designed by a man whose net worth reached $30 billion and whose moral compass was never installed at the factory. You sit in rooms with the names the world will learn. Gustavo Gaviria, the financial architect. Carlos Leder, the logistics visionary. The Ochoa brothers, the aristocratic connections. These men control 80% of the world's supply. You're in the room where it happens. Hamilton would write a musical about it if the cast didn't keep disappearing. Your job now is coordinating shipments to the United States. 15 tons per month. Each ton wholesales for $35 million in Miami. The cartel spends $2,500 monthly on rubber bands to wrap the bills. They lose 10% of revenue annually to rats eating cash in storage warehouses. You're not managing a drug operation. You're managing a central bank with no oversight and a very aggressive monetary policy. But 989 changes everything. The government begins extraditing cartel members to the United States. American courts can't be solved with the same arithmetic as Colombian ones. Pablo declares war on the Colombian state. The organization begins doing things that turn front pages red across 3 continents. The government responds with Search Block, built exclusively to find Pablo. American money, American advisors. Then Los Pepes emerge, a shadow group funded by the Cali cartel and rogue elements of the Colombian government. They begin systematically dismantling everything connected to Pablo. They don't work up the organizational chart. They erase it from the middle. Your name is on a list. You know because people on the list start disappearing. A lieutenant in Envigado, gone overnight, car found empty, engine running. A plaza boss in Bello, vanished, never heard from again. A financial manager. His family receives a cardboard sign. Por trabajar con Pablo. 4 words, no return address needed. They aren't targeting individuals. They're demolishing architecture. And you are load-bearing. Level 7, the ghost. You're 36, Pablo is running. The man who commanded a $30 billion empire now lives in rented apartments with curtains drawn at noon. He communicates through handwritten notes. He eats cold arepas in the dark because turning on a stove creates a heat signature, and heat signatures mean helicopters. You're running too. Your house in El Poblado, seized. Accounts frozen. Your Land Cruiser sits in a garage you'll never visit again. You move between apartments in the Comunas, the same hillside slums you were born in. Same cinder block, same corrugated tin. The geography of your life has completed its circle. Except now you're not a 13-year-old on a rooftop watching for police. You're a 36-year-old crouching in a bathroom at 2 a.m., scanning military frequencies, wondering if the footsteps outside belong to neighbors or a search team. Your mother still lives in Comuna 13. You can't visit her. Your sister finished school with the money you sent. She works at a legitimate bank now. She doesn't know exactly what funded her education, and you intend to keep it that way because the truth would cost more than the tuition ever did. December 2nd, 1993. You hear it on the radio. Pablo is gone, cornered on a rooftop in Barrio Los Olivos. One day after his 44th birthday. Located because he stayed on a radio call 30 seconds too long. A man who moved 15 tons a month across borders with military precision, undone by half a minute of carelessness. Found on a rooftop. The same kind of rooftop where you once stood as a Campanero, whistling warnings for 50,000 pesos a day. The symmetry is so precise it feels authored. The Medellín Cartel dies with him. Not slowly, not gracefully. It collapses like a building with the foundation removed. Every rank, every route, every bribe network, every alliance, gone. The Cali Cartel absorbs the market. The paramilitaries absorb the territory. The Americans declare victory. The hippos at Hacienda Nápoles escape into the Magdalena River and become an invasive species. Even the zoo outlasts the empire. And you, a senior executive of a corporation that no longer exists. You have 3 options: prison, disappearance, reinvention. Most get the first 2. The few who manage the 3rd surface years later in quiet coastal towns, running hardware stores or fishing charters, growing old in silence while Netflix turns their lives into content for people who've never smelled jungle rain or gasoline on wet pavement. And somewhere in that silence, you do the arithmetic one final time. You were 13 when they found you, a kid on a rooftop. They gave you a phone with one number and told you to watch. And you did. You watched for 23 years. You watched yourself become the runner, then the blade, then the lab, then the territory, then the lieutenant, then the ghost. Every rank felt like climbing. Every promotion felt like progress. But you weren't climbing. You were being fed into a machine that converts poverty into cocaine, and cocaine into cash, and cash into power for exactly one man. A man who ended up on a rooftop, just like you almost did, just like thousands actually did. Pablo called himself El Patron, the patron, the protector. He built 4,000 houses for the poor. He handed out cash in the comunas like a saint distributing communion. And every single person who took that money, who stood on that corner, who carried that bag, who completed that assignment, who ran that lab, who managed that territory, every single one was never an employee. They were fuel. And fuel doesn't get a retirement plan. Fuel doesn't get a severance package. Fuel gets burned. That's the Medellín Cartel. You don't climb it. You combust inside it. And when there's nothing left to burn, the machine finds more. Because there's always another 13-year-old standing on a rooftop in Comuna 13. His shoes are torn. His mother makes 8,000 pesos a day. His refrigerator doesn't work. And he's already watching.